Welcome to the Cosmic Cafe Show, where the paranormal is normal. My name is Eric Brown, and I'll be your host and server. For today's daily special at the cafe, we are brewing up the question of how do UFOs perform those inertia defying acrobatics? Have you ever just wondered if UFOs are real? Then how in the heck do they actually perform those crazy inertia defying acrobatics in our skies? 1 second they're here, and the next second they're here. To help us understand that question is Mr. Robert Schroeder, who has a diverse background including a BA in mathematics from Rutgers University and an Associate's of Science in Aerospace Engineering, as well as an MBA. Mr. Schroeder's book, Solving the UFO Enigma, talks about how modern physics like quantum mechanics, coupled with the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland, are revealing new technology that just may explain how UFOs can perform these defying acrobatics. Welcome, Bob.
Hi, Eric, and hi, Ruben, and thank you so much for giving me another opportunity to talk about the connection between modern physics and the UFO phenomenon.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this.
Well, thank you for joining us via the internet from Boston, Massachusetts. We do really appreciate your time. And sitting next to me, you may recognize this gentleman, Mr. Ruben Uriarte, who's the Northern California Director and International Affairs Coordinator for MUFON. Welcome again.
Hey, thank
Welcome
you very
back.
much. Yeah, always a pleasure.
Well, we're always willing to brew up your favorite beverage here, right?
Well, we're ready to have it.
That's right. That's right. So, well, I think we should get straight to some questions for Bob. I know he's got a limited schedule today. So, did you want to ask Bob the first question?
Well, Bob, how do UFOs fly these undefined acrobatic maneuvers?
Ruben, that's a terrific question, and it's very, very interesting because the key thing about UFOs is that there are basically two big questions on the UFO enigma, and the first question is, number one, how do they get here? And then the second question is, as Eric was referring to, how are they able to do these inertia-defying acrobatics in Earth's atmosphere? And these two questions are actually related. So I first want to just mention how they get here to planet Earth, because what I believe what they're doing is I believe they're taking advantage of extra dimensions, but if these extra dimensions exist, then it will mean that there's going to be certain other characteristics that we are going to see in particle accelerators, like over at the Large Hadron Collider over in Geneva, Switzerland. And these other characteristics or other particles that we are going to see, if these extra dimensions exist, will be critical to explaining how these craft defy inertia.
So my question is, because I guess I'm not entirely clear here, what is it that makes UFOs so technologically puzzling?
Actually, it's related to those two questions, Eric.
Yeah.
And how they get here, and of course how they move around in our atmosphere. But I should quickly explain inertia. What inertia is the resistance of a mass or a body to acceleration, and we all experience it every single day.
Right.
When you're in your car, and you suddenly see, the lights from a police car behind you,
right.
Your first thought is to accelerate and get away. And if you did do something like that,
which we don't encourage.
No, we don't encourage.
No, we don't encourage that. No.
Don't do this at home.
Right, right.
But if you did, you would be pressed against the seat in your car. And then if you made a sharp turn around a corner to get down a side street, you'd be thrown to one side in the car. That is the effect of inertia. And believe it or not, although we can measure inertial forces precisely,
Right.
this is kind of amazing. Most people don't realize this. We do not know the origin of the force that we call inertia. And it was essential to understanding general relativity, but Einstein himself nor anybody else understands the origin of inertia. But anyway, to make a long story short, I believe these UFOs have figured out a way to overcome the force of inertia, and that's how they are able to do these phenomenal maneuvers in our atmosphere, including incredible acceleration. They've actually been tracked on radar doing 100G acceleration.
Wow.
And isn't that something, Eric
That-
and Ruben? And when you think about it, the best that jet fighter pilots can do is about 10 Gs, and that's with a pressure suit and a lot of training. So that gives you an idea. They have figured it out. You know?
Wow.
So,
That is
so
amazing.
I think that may answer the question there.
I know it does for me. I know I've felt that effect in the car before, so.
Yeah.
Not that I'm admitting to anything, folks, no. Well, let me ask you, how do you think UFOs are actually able to overcome this inertia force anyways?
Okay, and that is the exciting part, because I think we may be on the threshold of understanding how they do it, and it's this is something that is only in the last couple of decades has physics on planet Earth reached the point where we may be able to understand what they're doing. And this is what I think is happening. As I mentioned previously, I believe they're getting here through the extra dimensions. And if we could bring up slide number 3.
Slide number 3, okay. I believe we have it up now.
Wait, I think that's, I forgot which one that is. Oh my gosh. I need
It's our universe consists of matter and force particles acting on the stage of space and time. You
Oops,
like
sorry.
That. Oh, you don't want that one?
I messed up. I meant slide number 4.
Oh, slide number 4, okay.
Okay, yeah. And
so that has like the two planes and then the things jumping back and forth.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And I need that particular slide so the audience can see. It's believed the current theories in modern physics are proposing that we live on a space-time membrane, a 4-dimensional space-time membrane that's floating in a larger 5-dimensional universe. And they believe that there is another space-time membrane, also 4-dimensional, that's exactly parallel to the one that we're on. And so our entire universe, when you go outside at night, look up in the sky and see those stars, that's all part of the 4-dimensional membrane that we live on. And it turns out that all the subatomic particles that make us up, the electrons, the protons, neutrons, and so on like that, they believe are these little wiggling strings that are stuck to the surface of the membrane that we live on, the two open ends of each of the particles that are existing in our universe. And that includes both force particles and matter particles. But here's the key. This is the key thing. It looks like the only particle that is capable of traveling into the bulk that's between those membranes is the graviton. And the reason is because the graviton, unlike all other force particles or matter particles, is a closed loop. And so therefore it's not stuck on the surface of our membrane, and it can travel into the what they call the bulk. As you can see.
Bob,
yes.
Sorry for the interruption, real quick. You have this graphic in your book, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Because I just wanted to find out, because if anybody's interested and they can go to the book, they were holding it up on the screen for, I think, longer than they needed. So, okay, go ahead and continue on.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what happened was now that if these extra dimensions are real, and this is the exciting part, if they are real, it means that there will be we will see signals coming from the extra dimensions, and these signals will be something called Kaluza-Klein gravitons, and these Kaluza-Klein gravitons will have an interaction strength many, many exponentially times greater than gravitons on planet Earth. And what's exciting about this is that they're called KK, I'll call them KK gravitons for short. These KK gravitons, if they produce them, which they will, they hope to produce at the Large Hadron Collider, when they produce them, they will in turn induce the creation of micro black holes. And these micro black holes, I believe, are key to how UFOs operate. And let me explain how. And
is that one of the slides you brought that shows that?
Yes, it is. I think if we can go to, I forget this, oh boy.
Is it the UFO levitating above surface of Earth?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Our graphics operator got it up a a little early, so I wanted to make sure it's the right graphic.
It is. That's exactly it.
Yeah, please let us know which graphic that you want up when you're going.
And so that particular slide, if you look at it carefully, you'll see little black and red dots below the UFO.
Right. Let me guess, black is black hole?
Exactly.
All right.
and the red are the KK gravitons, and those KK gravitons, as I mentioned, will induce the creation of micro black holes. But here is the exciting part. When I first read that the Large Hadron Collider was going to be producing these micro black holes, I wondered. I thought, well, I know that they call it a black hole because it can swallow photons that carry light waves. So, and light goes at this, of course, at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. So
right, everybody knows that, right?
And so I thought, what I thought, Eric and Ruben, I thought, wait a minute, gravitons are massless particles like photons, so they travel at the speed of light too. So could a graviton be swallowed by a micro black hole? And so I quickly did a check on the internet. I went into archive.org, which is a site where physicists pre-publish papers so that people can kind of review them before they put them in a physics publication. And so I asked that question on that archive, and I got a whole bunch of papers, and these papers talked about exactly that. They said, yes, these gravitons, or ordinary four-dimensional gravitons from our planet Earth, will be swallowed by a micro black hole.
That's amazing.
And this is key to UFOs, how they manage to fly around. And if you go to the next slide, number 5 or 6, whatever it is.
6, right?
Okay, 6. Yep. Thank you, Eric.
There you go. The absorption and emission of a micro black hole.
That's it.
That's all right.
And so I have to tell the audience I actually can't see the slides here over here in Boston.
Right.
But
yeah, you're a little limited there.
Yeah. So so what's critical about that particular slide that you're looking at is that it shows not only the absorption of a micro black hole, but the emissions. And the critical thing is, one thing I was very worried about, if the micro black hole, when it decays according to a process called Hawking radiation, discovered by or proposed by Professor Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist in England. But I had to check to make sure that the micro black hole didn't emit gravitons, because it's graviton exchange that causes an object to have weight. So I discovered that, I mean, or at least I found out in the papers, they do not believe these micro black holes will emit gravitons, but they will swallow gravitons.
Oh.
At that instant, I understood how they're working. I believe this is what they're doing. They're swallowing gravitons. So any graviton emitted either by the UFO itself, which is made out of metal, so it's emitting gravitons. The UFO puts an envelope around itself of these micro black holes. And then any gravitons coming from planet Earth are absorbed by those micro black holes. And then any gravitons emitted by the UFO itself are also absorbed by the micro black holes in the envelope around the craft. And what that means is that the UFO, when it's in Earth's gravitational field, the Earth's gravitational field does not see a big mass there. Typically, MUFON, as Ruben will be aware of, they did a study and they estimated UFOs weighed in the range of 20, 30, 40 tons. But as far as the Earth is concerned, it sees an object that might weigh 10 ounces. That's it.
Oh.
And then if we can go to the next slide, you'll see the answer to how they overcome inertia.
And we got it up for you. How
is it up
UFOs
there?
overcome inertia. Yeah.
Okay, and if you look on that slide, there's two things there. Number one, the equivalence principle of general relativity says inertial mass, okay, equals gravitational mass.
Yeah.
Now, and gravitational mass is what we think of as weight. So, and number two, by eliminating or reducing the gravitational mass, the UFOs eliminate or reduce their inertial mass. And that's it. And that's how they do it. And in effect, they've turned these things into very lightweight objects. And Ruben can confirm this, but many UFO sightings talk about UFOs spinning.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and the reason they spin is for exactly the same reason when you take a Frisbee and you toss it across the yard, if you didn't spin it, it would become unstable and it would flop to the ground. Because the reason is because the Frisbee is so lightweight, it weighs so little, just a few ounces, that they have to spin it to stabilize it. That's precisely the same reason I believe UFOs are spinning as well.
It's like a gyroscopic energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
you feel on a bicycle wheel or a Frisbee, or
Bob,
it stabilizes it.
quick question to go with that.
Okay,
It works in our atmosphere. How about in the vacuum of space? Does that also has the same application, the spinning?
Yep, absolutely. And here's the reason why. Because even in outer space, you're still, even though you may not feel the gravitational force from planet Earth, you are still subject to the laws of inertia. And as so what that means that even if you're in deep, deep space, far away from any big, massive object like the Earth or Jupiter or something like that, even if you're halfway between here and Alpha Centauri, if you're in your rocket ship and you try to accelerate to 20, 30, 40 Gs, you will still be pushed back in your seat. In fact, you'll be squashed. You won't survive. And so the UFOs still need to operate their inertia reducing thing. And of course, when they do that, if they didn't spin a UFO, it would sort of wobble in outer space as well. So they've got to continue. They have to constantly spin it. And so that's what they're doing. And if I could just interject one quick sighting that occurred down in New Zealand. It was back in the 50s, and Ruben may be familiar with this sighting. A woman, I think it was 1959, she was walking across a field to milk her cows at a farm very early in the morning, like at 5 o'clock in the morning, so it was still dark. and she saw this green light bathing the field around her. She looked up and saw this green light getting bigger and bigger. She dropped her buckets and ran over to a little clump of bushes and woods. And she's just sat there and looked, and she saw a classic UFO come down, and then it hovered over the paddy. A light went on in the interior. There was a typical canopy on the top of the UFO, and she saw two beings in there that looked pretty much humanoid, but they had helmets on, but they had shoulders like humans would. And they were sitting in tandem, one in front of the other. The one in front got up and, exactly like a human being would do, put his hands on what appeared to be the console or the instrument board and peered down at the ground below, then sat down again, and the light in the canopy went off. But the lady noticed something very interesting about the UFO. There were two rows of flames shooting out on the rim of the UFO, one above the other. They circled the UFO, and one row of flames was shooting in one direction, and the other is shooting in the opposite direction. And that's exactly how they stabilize these craft. So when they're actually close to the ground, so the object isn't spinning, they need it to be still. Although I think the interior part is separate from it anyway. But so they don't disturb the ground. They actually have the stabilization working in both directions. So I'm sorry I'm monopolizing the floor.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's very fascinating.
And so, but anyway, that's my...
Bob, just for another quick question. What you're describing obviously sounds like you're the classic flying saucer, but we also get reports of objects that are shaped like triangles or boomerangs or even spheres. I don't know if they follow the same process, but do you think are there other similar properties that these crafts are using?
Yes, Ruben, that's a great question, because that's exactly right. There are many different types. More typically, well, I should say this though, in every observed type of UFO, they always see some part of the UFO that is circular in aspect. Now, if you look at the first slide, the #1 slide that shows if they could bring that up. Okay.
Well, we'll let you know when it's up.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead and just keep talking.
Okay. Well, you'll notice 3 large circles in the corners of that craft. That's an actual photograph of a triangle UFO in Belgium in 1990s, I guess. And but anyway, I think what they're doing is those circular areas are where, oh, by the way, the reason these objects are circular is because I believe they are particle accelerators. And they're smashing just exactly like we're going to be doing at the Large Hadron Collider. They're smashing subatomic particles together, head to head. And so if you look at that triangle, if they've got it up there.
No, I don't think we have that slide, so that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
But in any case, if people look at the cover of the book, of my book, they will see 3
the cover of your book.
Yeah,
they can get that up. There we go.
Yeah,
now we got it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
you should have just said your book cover.
Yeah, I'm
we
sorry,
had it labeled as your book cover.
Okay.
Oh, well, don't worry. It's only live TV.
And, so anyway, the 3 circles in the corner are the particle accelerators on those triangle, and I guarantee that those are probably rotating, and that's how it stays stable. So Ruben, that was a great question. That's that's exactly how I think they do it, even on the odd-shaped craft.
Now, speaking of your book cover, since we only have a few minutes left, I wanted to give you a quick minute to just tell us briefly about your book and where folks can find it, libraries or wherever.
Okay. They can, of course, they can look it up on Amazon. Is that okay to say?
Probably not, but
oh, sorry.
you could say.
Okay. But it's available. They can. It should be in some libraries, and whatever they can check
I
it
also have your bio and the cover of the book on the Cosmic Cafe, so they can always find it through the site there.
Go on the internet and basically
just find it.
Just put in the title and
exactly
go directed to it.
So
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
well, I do
and
have a quick question since we only have a couple of minutes left. It sounds interesting. Is how are UFOs able to levitate above Earth's surface without any wings or rocket power or any of that stuff? I mean, tell us about
Okay,
that.
okay, Eric, that's another great question because I forgot to mention one important word when I was talking about how the UFOs are absorbing gravitons from planet Earth. And that word that I wanted to use is what the UFOs are doing is they're effectively demassing the craft. So in other words, these craft are not using anti-gravity, which, by the way, modern science doesn't support the concept of anti-gravity. It's a little bit too complex to explain quickly here, but the demassing is the other alternative for something to fly easily. And so once they demass it down to maybe 10 or 12 ounces, they only need modest thrusters, which would be barely visible to keep the thing levitated above planet Earth. And that's what they're doing.
Ah, so it's almost in essence, maybe as a simple way of describing it, almost like floating like a balloon because it's so light.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
right.
So that
And
might even explain
Yeah.
the sightings that you talk about with MUFON is the craft that are kind of floating. Don't people describe it that way?
Oh, hovering, just
Yeah.
motionless. It just remains motion. A
Much like
variety of maneuvers that these objects can do.
That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. I
Yeah.
think we solved it.
Oh, and
We have just about a minute left. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say before we say goodnight to or goodbye to everybody here?
if I could say one more thing quickly.
Sure.
One of the things we can do is we can prove if these craft are using micro black holes, KK gravitons, and their particle accelerators, if we can detect Hawking radiation coming from these craft. Hawking radiation has never been seen, but they know what it should look like. If we could get the equipment spectrographic, Hawking radiation, it covers the invisible spectrum as well as the visible. If we can detect Hawking radiation, man, I'll tell you, the physics community would then take notice of the UFO phenomenon.
Well, on that note, I'm going to have to thank you very much for coming to the cafe again, Bob. Really do appreciate it. And if any professors out there that work at universities work with spectrographic equipment, you can certainly get a hold of Bob through my website, and I'll get you in touch with him.
Great.
Ruben, thanks for coming to the cafe again.
Always again.
Really
It's
appreciate
always
it.
Fantastic.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Cosmic Cafe show. We certainly appreciate you guys showing up and watching what we have to offer every month. Hopefully we've solved that, or partially solved at least that mystery about how the UFOs can do those acrobatics in the air. And I'd like to thank everybody here at the Media Center, all the volunteers who volunteered their time and resources to be here with us. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you.